Previously, the group boarded the airship that was sent to them by the Emperor. The captain was a no-nonsense tiefling who made it very clear what the rules were during their travels. It didn't take long for the group to realize that they were on the Emperor's private airship, which very much wasn't what they'd been expecting. They found a private-ish place to talk about that revelation. They admitted that it could just be that they'd saved the Isles, which was a fairly important trading partner of the Empire, but Isaac suspected that someone important might know about their beef with Arspec. They agreed that they'd find out eventually, one way or another. Dinner the first night was a bit of a surprise. The meal included dishes that were local to where each of them was from, even those of them from other planes. It was very clear that someone had done their research, and it was difficult to tell whether it was a nice gesture or a threat. Isaac and Zarakir spent the majority of the trip working on crafting projects, although Zarakir did spend a little time sparring with Ren as well. Bertrand did a fair bit of talking with the crew. Adria tracked down Nova, who'd been hiding from the group to some extent, and had a talk with him. There was only so much Adria could do, but she tried her best to knock some sense into him. Somewhat literally. She told him that she was there to help, and if nothing else, to be a distraction. She also pressed him to go fucking talk to Bertrand already. Midway through the trip, Kess settled in a private room to, well, some would call it pray, while others would probably more accurately call it ramble into thin air. They were given a vision from their deity, though, and they ended up having a bit of a talk where they asked some questions, got some answers, and left with even more questions. The biggest question they asked was why she had chosen them to become her cleric in the first place, and while she didn't give quite as point-blank an answer as they would have liked, she did make it clear that it hadn't been just chance. An exhausted Isaac passed out the various gifts he'd been crafting over the course of the journey. Eventually, after an uneventful 10 days of travel, the group arrived in the capital city. Bertrand and Kess were the only two who'd been there before, and for most of the rest of the group, it was the largest city they'd ever seen in their lives. The skyship arrived in the city mid-afternoon, putting down in a very specific location in the port. As the group made their way off the ship, there was a well-dressed elfish man waiting for them. He had reddish skin and red hair, as well as very expensive-looking shirt that was open to the navel, and there was an entourage with him. He welcomed the group to the capital and introduced himself as the Emperor's husband. And that is where we left off.